Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Chinyere. It's been 4 years since I shot and uploaded my last video here on YouTube, and I do want to apologize to everyone who's been in the background trying to encourage me or waiting for my next video to be uploaded here. Guys, a lot has happened in the last 4 years, but I think this is more like a life update, and I just wanted to, stylishly find my way back to the streets of YouTube. I'll say one of the reasons why I took a step back away from my YouTube journey was because of motherhood, and I don't want to discourage or undermine the happiness of people who enjoy motherhood, but for me, I think because I had the delay in conceiving my first child, which is about 7 years, my partner and I had had time to enjoy our time together as husband and wife, but we really did not know ourselves and what we were going to be like as parents. And so especially for me, with being a creator, I got into this space where I just wasn't interested to connect with anyone any longer. Maybe because I also had a bit of postpartum depression, which kind of lasted for about maybe the first 4 to 6 months of motherhood for me. I struggled a lot, and I just couldn't see myself smiling and picking up my camera to be shooting videos. And I also questioned the fact, and I also questioned myself if I wanted to put my son out in the social media space, or if I wanted him to just be far away from all of social media drama. And being a first-time mom, I just didn't want people to be questioning me and going, oh, you're not doing this right, you're doing that, don't do this, do that as a mom. And I really wanted to understand what it was going to entail to be a mother to this little human being. Of course, now we're 4 years past that, and I kind of feel a little bit more confident this time around going into the space of motherhood. Speaking of which, in a few days time I am also going to be birthing another child. So guys, yes, we are carrying a heavy bump right now, which I'm going to be sharing a little bit about today. So after I had my son, a couple of months after I had my son, I mean, when I shot my infertility video dealing with fibroids, I think I spoke a bit about dealing with, not sure if I had endometriosis at the time. It kind of felt like I had endometriosis because the pain that I used to experience, or the symptoms that I used to experience, sounded like endometriosis. But I think my doctors in Ireland at the time were more focused on dealing with fibroids, that they overlooked the possibility of endometriosis in my uterus. And so fast forward 6 months, 7, 8 after I had my son, I can't even remember, but a few months after I had my son, I had this pain around my umbilical region, and it was kind of getting darker. So I went up to my GP, I called my doctor, and I was like, I have this pain, I can't wear clothes, I can't even wear like robes, nothing I put on is comfortable, it was just very sensitive to touch. So I called my GP and I was like, I'll send for, thankfully, an ultrasound scan, and it was a transvaginal one. Normally endometriosis is not diagnosed through through ultrasounds or MRIs. You're sent for like a laparoscopy for endometriosis diagnosis, which kind of takes years because I don't know, but yeah, with the way that the medical system seems to treat endometriosis, they don't treat it with so much of an emergency unless you're like dying in pain for them to actually attend to your case. So I went for this ultrasound, and immediately the sonographer just put in the probe right through me. She was like, I think I can see some endometriosis signs in your uterus. And I'm like, yeah, right. The devil really fought so hard, because having to have gone past fibroids after having a surgery and then coming on the other side to have a baby, you now, you know, go past that only to hear that you're now, you know, going to have to deal with endometriosis. And yeah, my period had come back at that time after I had my son. And yeah, it was becoming more painful as the months went by, but I couldn't figure out why it was getting painful. And having, you know, gone through a myomectomy, I was like, what exactly am I dealing with here? The pain around my umbilical region was still persisting. One day I went to the accident and emergency unit because it was just getting too much. I couldn't carry my son. I couldn't connect with him. I was dealing with postpartum depression. Here I am also dealing with this pain that would just not allow me carry this child in peace. So I went to the accident and emergency unit, and thankfully one of the doctors just looked at it and he was like, you need to have a surgery tomorrow. I was like, wow. Basically it was a hernia. So the next day they took me in for surgery and the hernia was repaired, thankfully. They also had seen some traits of endometriosis around my umbilical region, but yeah, they just sent it for, I think, histology studies, and that was the end of that. Now I began to wait for the NHS to call me, you know, the gynecologists to now call me so that we can talk about this endometriosis pain that I'm going through, because now I'm having to deal with this other monthly pain. Endometriosis pain just feels like nothing can help, you know. I tried to get these machines that you can stick to your body from one company that was advertising on Facebook at some point with some of their supplements. Nothing was working. Nothing at all was working. I think it was until a friend of mine who's a doctor had recommended some painkillers for me, which is like crazy powerful painkillers, because the pain I was getting from endometriosis, guys, it was giving me panic attack when I know that my period is coming like in a week. You know, like I'll be literally panicking thinking about my period, having to deal with the pain that I'll have to go through. And the flow, it wasn't too heavy. I'll say maybe the fibroid surgery kind of helped, but it was the pain, the tiredness. I had to deal with the tiredness. I was always very weak at work. Like I'll have to take breaks to just go lie down in a room. But thankfully my workplace has been very supportive to me going through the symptoms I was going through. So it wasn't too difficult going to work on days when, you know, especially the first day of my periods. Fast forward, we get into year 3 after we had our son, and I think we started talking about, I just turned 40 at the time, and we started talking about, okay, baby number 2. Trust me, left to my husband, I think he was more satisfied with just having this his one child, because yeah, my husband and my son, they're like best friends. But yeah, but I also knew that this year I'm turning 40 and I have to think about, do I want to have another child quickly or just forget about this journey? So we start, you know, I started, thankfully my job is a private institution and I could access private healthcare. So I was like, instead of waiting for the NHS, why don't I just, you know, start calling gynecologists or calling my insurance to book me in to see a gynecologist. And, you know, very speedily, compared to me waiting the last 2 to 3 years for the NHS to get me to see a gynecologist, which is just crazy. But anyways, I was sent off to see a gynecologist. I saw the first person. He looked at my symptoms, he examined me. You know, I love private healthcare because they take their time to talk to you compared to when you get to government-based hospitals. I felt like there was so much of a difference with having conversations with the consultants. But anyways, the doctor took his time, you know, listening to my history, and then he recommended that I get to see another gynecologist who specialized in endometriosis. So I went off to see this other doctor who had also, you know, listened to all of my history, sent me for an MRI, and then he recommended me to see another gynecologist. At this point, I'm like, what's going on? Why are you guys sending me from one doctor to another one? But it was like one specialist to another specialist to the Ubunge specialist this time around in London. So we went to see that doctor, my husband and I, this time around. We now went to see that doctor. And after he had listened to, you know, my case, the question was more of, Are you more interested in, you know, the quality of your life, or do you want to have another baby, which is more important to you? And for me, I think the quality of my life at that time was more important to me. So I was like, I'm tired of dealing with this endometriosis pain every month. I'm literally going through it every day of the month. You know, endometriosis is like through the month you're dealing with it. It's not like fibroids that, let me say, first day of my period I have to deal with that pain, and then I don't get to experience it for another cycle. This one is like back to back pain and weakness. That's what I was kind of experiencing. So I decided quality of my life was more important than having a child at the time. Let me first of all leave, and then if God decides the same way he blessed us the first time miraculously with the baby, he can do it again. And so the second time the doctor was like, okay, that he's going to do about 3 surgeries. He'll need to excise the endometriosis. I might have to carry a stoma bag, but there was no guarantee. You know, that was the question in my head through the conversation. It was more of, we don't know if you're going to get any relief after this surgery, or if your pain is going to persist. So I'm like, ding 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 ding, that's a bad sign there. You know, some people get relief, some people don't get relief, and that's the story that they tell to, you know, the doctors will tell to every woman. So I was like, okay, so what are the options we had? And then he reeled out all the surgeries that we'll have to do, and it was about 3 surgeries, like I said. We decided to explore IVF, and this time around we actually went to see the doctors. You know, we traveled to another county to go see some consultants, you know, for our first consultation. And the conversation was more about, with those doctors, was more about, okay, let's check your follicles. You have some follicles we can work with. And at the back of my head, I'm like, but I have endometriosis. Because I always used to Google, I was like, what are the chances of having, you know, like stage 4 deep infiltrating endometriosis and conceiving a child, you know. I always felt, I don't know, if it comes, it comes. We've been blessed with one. We just learn to, you know, enjoy this life that we have with this one child that we have. Little did I know what the future had in store. But anyways, yeah, we went for that consultation, and I remember we had gone with my son, and there were some other couples in the room waiting to also be seen by the doctor. And guys, the daggers that we received that day was almost as if, you have one child, what are you looking for here? That's literally how I felt. But anyways, yeah, so the plan was now to book our flights, book our hotels, and then travel on. Only for me to wake up one day and I'm like, where's my period? What's happening here? So, you know, the shock. If your period is constant and you miss it, you know, the shock that I'm talking about. You know, so the shock again hits me, and I'm like, wow, is this happening a second time? You know, it's almost as if every time we decide to bring up this conversation about IVF, ding ding ding, my body decides God has other plans for you. You know, just allow him to do what he wants to do. And yeah, there I was with my second child, carrying my second child. And yes, guys, that's literally the story of how the second baby came about. So right now we are a few days, weeks to the birth of our baby, and we don't know the sex of this child yet. That's another decision that I decided to not jump on. I feel like, having gone through infertility myself, you know, I'm really not keen about the sex of the baby, especially the second time. I really don't care. For me, it's more about just having a healthy baby. A healthy baby is more important to me than the sex of the child. So every time we go for an ultrasound, it's almost like, okay, close your eyes. We're also in the health sector, please don't tell us anything. You know, once we're getting close to the legs, it's like, okay, close your eyes now, guys. But yeah, it's been a pretty exciting journey, and we're looking forward to being parents this time around. I mean, hopefully this time things go on much better and I don't take about 4 years to come back on my channel, but I'm going to try to pace myself and just, you know, enjoy this journey while I enter this new phase of being a mom of 2. So that's basically the life updates that I wanted to share here, and my story about endometriosis. So guys, thank you so much for being patient, watching up to this point. I hope to see you in my next video, and until next time, do take care of yourselves, guys. My name remains Chi Chi. Bye.